What?
Folks coming in. Hi, Maggie.
Hi, Dr. Patel.
How you doing?
Pretty well, pretty well.
Ed, Bailey, Artemis, good to have you all here. We'll get started in a few minutes.
Hi, everyone.
Hey there. So we are at 4 o'clock. I'm going to give it another minute or so. I think we've got a couple more folks coming in to the chat. We've got a special session of our Wednesday seminar series. This is something new. We're charging on into summer, so we're excited to have CapTech here. But we'll get started in another minute. We have the chat feature ready to go. If you want to queue up questions, feel free to put your questions to park them over there, or at the end, I think we're going to open up for questions at the end if folks want to come off mute. Okay, we're coming up. Let's just go ahead and we'll kick ourselves off with time being always a precious commodity. Good afternoon, all. Welcome, as I was saying earlier, to a special edition of our Wednesday seminars. We are very excited to have CapTech with us to talk about their organization and some of the opportunities there. We've got some special guests, some old friends, some new friends. We'll let them introduce themselves here in a minute. I'd like to ask all of you to remind you, if you've not done so already, to go ahead and mute your mics. Keeps the background noise, the dog barking, all those other kinds of things out of the way. As you have questions, you can certainly feel free to put them in the chat to have them queued up in that space. You can also wait towards the end and we will open it up for questions at the very end. And with that, on behalf of the School of Data Science, I would like to welcome our friends from CapTech and say thank you again for giving the most precious of gifts, which is time. We're looking forward to the conversation. Thank you all for being here. Wynn, I think I'm going to turn it over to you and your team.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to kick us off.
Okay.
Thanks for having us. I'm a former UNC alum. I have a master's in the data science and business analytics. And I know that as a student, I really didn't know what consulting was as a career or really what we could do with it. I pretty much knew that I did not want a typical 9-to-5 job, sitting down, doing the same thing. So consulting's been a perfect fit for me. And I have definitely found a passion for it. So hopefully we can help you guys kind of understand what consulting is and see if you might have a passion for it too. So this is just what we're going to cover. First, as I said, we're going to kind of introduce ourselves, look at what IT consulting is, both in a kind of broad spectrum and then a little deeper as to CapTech's role in it. And then we'll look at some examples of the work that CapTech's done, a little more about CapTech, and then open it up for any questions. So you can go, perfect. So as I said, my name is Lynn Johnson. I'm a data and analytics consultant. I've been with CapTech now for about a year and a half. Prior to this, I was with Deloitte, also in the data analytics consulting space. And then prior to that, I was in UNC Charlotte in the master's program. My experience has been really varied. I've done a lot more kind of data strategy work, as well as some data visualization and data governance. So a little bit of everything, and I know I've enjoyed all of it. So I'll pass it over to my other coworkers and let them introduce themselves.
Thanks, Lynn. I'm Wynn Reese, and I'm on the recruiting side at CapTech. I actually oversee our college and intern recruiting program. So I am not a data person, so you will not be hearing a lot out of me until the very end when I tell you a little bit more about CapTech. But I'm also on our National Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Council, which is also something near and dear to my heart. So I hope you all get to learn lots, and I'll pass it over to Mike.
Thanks, Wynn. Hey, y'all. I'm Michael Fitchko. I'm out of the actual DC office. I am one of the practice area leaders in our data and analytics practice, and I've been in IT consulting for a little over 12 years, and I've been at CapTech for a little over seven. Prior to CapTech, I had a stint at Deloitte for about 2 as a data governance type consultant. And then previously to that, I was a front-end developer for CACI. So again, kind of mirrored Lynn a little bit right out of college and took an indirect route to the data analytics profession, but I'm never looking back. What's funny about it is I actually was quoted in my graduation book from my college of saying, I don't care what I do in IT as long as it's not data. And here, here I am as one of our national data and analytics leaders at CapTech. So my current focus, a couple more bullets there. Sorry, I have a long intro. My current focus is on data productization strategy and advanced analytics, which are a lot of big buzzwords that just mean different types of data work. And then, in addition, I wanted to highlight that specifically at CapTech and other consulting firms, it's not just about your technical expertise, it's also opportunities in organizational leadership and being a leader of people and the company culture that you're surrounded by. So looking forward to this talk. All right, what is IT consulting? $1 million question. Next slide. All right, so in general, the slide's going to cover some of the very, very basics of IT consultant, right? What does an IT consultant offer? In general, when we talk about an IT consultant, it's pretty straightforward, right? You come in as a trusted advisor to bring a technical expertise to your client or an organization that lacks that expertise, right? So think about a bank that wants to be a little more buttoned up with their technical practice, all the nuts and bolts that go on behind the scenes on the operational aspects of a bank. They are living on green screens from 1970s technology and kept hearing about all this cloud stuff going on and see IBM ads on TV, and they don't know what's what because they're a bank. They are accountants, they're organizational leaders, there might be some HR folks, but none of them are technologically savvy enough to implement, migrate, or even know where to start with a technical migration, right? That's one use case, right? So they would bring in an IT consultant who has an expertise in that area, consult with them, talk about a roadmap, what it takes to get their organization from point A to point B and beyond, specifically with their technology needs. And good consultants will have a conversation back with them and try to get to the root cause of their problems and what they're trying to do, and really understand, how technology fits into their long-term business roadmap and what's important to them as an organization and how technology best fits their needs. So specialized skills, right? Obviously, IT consultants implied that there is a specialized technical skill. One thing that you'll hear across the board in the IT consulting industry is called a T-shaped skill. So you have a breadth of awareness, academic understanding, or some experience in a number of areas that go across verticals. And then, as you get deeper into a single area of expertise, it builds down. So you can imagine a capital T. T-shaped skills are, pretty par for the course as far as IT consultants. You need to know a little bit about everything and a lot about one or two things pretty much to be successful as an IT consultant. And yeah, the breadth of experience is very, very important, right? As I mentioned previously, the role of an IT consultant is to partner with their clients to understand how technology can help them with their business goals, right? Their business goals are not always, let's make more money, let's save more time, right? Sometimes your business goal is, I'm noticing a lot of my employees leave in March. Why is that? How can technology help me alleviate or recognize why my employee attrition is higher in certain parts of the year than not? That's a good consultant will partner with their clients to really understand their pain and figure out the best technology for them. Why you need a breadth of experience is that it's not as simple as we're going to install some software on your computer and then you'll be good. It's a lot of people processes behind it. Sometimes these projects take 2, 3, 4, 5+ years. There's a lot of coordination. There are a lot of moving parts, a lot of cats to herd. It's a nice idiom that we like to use in the IT consulting world, especially when setting up meetings. And yeah, so you need a breadth of experience on, how businesses should run. How does technology fit into specific business processes, right? And that breadth of knowledge comes with experience. It comes with, exposing yourself to different areas of the business and different verticals, and literally just being a sponge for the first couple of years out of college. I mean, that's the best advice I can give you out of this individual bullet point right here is be flexible, be a sponge, learn as much as you can. And from that, it'll really focus yourself on, it goes back to that first bullet. What do I want to do with my career? Sometimes it takes a few years to figure it out as you get experience in different realms, right? So that's definitely how I shaped my career. I think that's how most people at CapTech and in the IT consulting industry shape their careers. It's very rare for someone to come right out of college, do exactly what they thought they were going to do, love it every day, and continue down that trajectory. It does happen. And if you're one of those people, good for you. That's awesome. Way to have it figured out. But yeah, the breadth of experience is so important in being an IT consultant. It really helps with that delivery and that people connection. Ultimately, IT consulting is a relationship business that just happens to be communicated through technology. But no, you're in there, you're feeling your client's pain, you're understanding it, you're living it with them, and you're trying to help them as best you can with your area of expertise. So that comes to trusted advisor. Good IT consultancies, in my opinion, are those who perform just like I said, right? They build a relationship with their clients beyond a contractual agreement. You do have certain structures of IT consultancies that are quite large, and their business model is winning 200, 300, 400 person contracts and just having the people to augment the staff of an organization, right? That's what we call staff augmentation. That's when a company hires a consultant firm to just be the IT department for that company, basically. So the client firm does not want a full-time IT department on the books completely. They hire a large consulting firm with a lot of people to just be that department for them. That's a pretty standard case for staff augmentation model. And then you have your smaller, more boutique consulting firms, a little more like CapTech, where we are subject matter experts, we're strategic experts. We help our clients by being forward-thinking technology experts and bringing the next best thing to them proactively, as opposed to kind of reacting to their needs and like reacting to problems that are happening. So it's a little different. One is not necessarily better than the other, but there are two vastly different operating models when it comes to IT consulting companies. So with that, right, going back to the trusted advisor bullet point, the more strategic boutique consultancies that build the people relationships first are going to lean on this concept of trusted advisor a lot more of, our clients are coming to us for help. They're admitting that they lack a skill or lack a knowledge necessary to reach their organizational goals, right? So they're coming to the CapTech of the world to say, we really think this technology will help us get to the next level. We're not capable of doing it ourselves. We really could use your help, right? And so you're building that trust, and we're not going to take advantage of our client and knowing that they're gapped in a skill area. They're not going to take advantage of us knowing that we don't know a lot about their vertical. We are not accountants. We're not career accountants. Going back to that bank example, we are career technology consultants, right? So we know technology. We might have an understanding of financial institutions, but we are not accountants. We don't know the ins and outs of balancing a ledger or whatever it is they do with those big banks behind the scenes. So we're kind of meeting in the middle and trusting each other and building a relationship for, to build long-term success. That's the role of a trusted advisor. So to sum all that up, right, it's not about creating one piece of technology for the sake of technology. It's about the integration of the right technologies at the right time. That's a very important piece for the sake of a better human experience. And I'll just reiterate that. IT consulting is a people relationship business. It just happens to be spoken and communicated through technology. So building that trust, right technologies at the right time, so critical for the success of an IT consulting company and, to your individual contribution as a prospective IT consultant.
So in our work, we've kind of done a lot of different things, but we're noticing some trends. We can see them on the left. We have kind of cloud transformation. This is where companies have a lot of data on-prem, but they want to be more competitive. They want easier access to their data. So they want to migrate to the cloud. We use some tools to do that. AWS, which is Amazon Web Services. We use Microsoft Azure, as well as Google Cloud Platform. It really just depends on the client's desires that we use these tools. The other is modern delivery. So this could be sprucing up a website to make it more efficient or helping a client figure out how to best reach their own customer base. Actionable insight has to deal more with advanced analytics. This could be finding seasonal trends or helping somebody figure out what type of clients they have or where most of their money is coming from. And that kind of leads into personalization, which is just helping a client better understand their own customers. It could be trying to figure out how to best reach them or when people most interact or how they interact with each other. As for tools, we use a pretty broad range. As I mentioned, it kind of depends on the client's wish, as well as our own personal experience. We use different visualization tools such as Tableau or Power BI, which is Microsoft's version. We use Python as well as R or SQL, but it really just depends on the consultant's experience as well as their desires. And a lot of other tools are used as well. You can go to the next slide. So CapTech's data applications can kind of fall into these different buckets. The first is the advanced analytics and data engineering. So this is about machine learning as well as doing different predictive models and really helping find those different trends and seasonalities and just kind of doing a deeper dive into the data. So the next is data strategy and data architecture. So data architecture is the technical aspect of building the connections between your different data and actually getting it to there. But before you can build those different technical connections, you need a strategy. You need a plan to get that. And that's what the data strategy is. It's coming in, doing those interviews, doing the analysis, looking at all your different sources, and figuring out how you want to connect it, how everything should interact. And then the architecture is coming in and actually doing that. So the next is data management and governance. This is around making sure that the data somebody has, they can trust, making sure that everybody is entering data in a way that they should be, making sure there's different standards and everybody is utilizing it the way they should be, as well as making sure that the data quality is clean. So this could be as simple as making sure that the fields are all integers, or could be deeper as well. And then the last is info analysis and data visualization. Some clients aren't as tech savvy. My last one wasn't. So helping them see their data and these analysis that we did in a clearer way is really beneficial. And most of the time, this is done through different visualizations, such as a Tableau dashboard. So that's just kind of taking what that analytics has done and helping it portray it in a clearer manner. So now that we've kind of talked about that, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the actual work that CapTech has done. This first one is mine. So the last client that I was with is a nonprofit food distributor. So they dealt with food banks as well as different food organizations and programs. If you guys know Meals on Wheels, that's one of the programs that they helped with. What they wanted was to be able to see their donors and figure out how to best communicate with them, because they really like their donors, and obviously those donors are a really big person of their organization. These are the people who are providing them with the funds that they need to continue on with their work. So they wanted visualization into how they actually interact with their people, as well as how they could best interact with them. So we did some interviews and noticed that there was a really, really big data quality issue. Pretty much they couldn't do the one thing that I mentioned before. They didn't trust their data, which if you don't trust the data, how could you possibly create these reports to help you get visualization into your donor? So as we did those interviews, we found out the main data issue, which was putting the data into their system. They had a system that they would enter all of their data into, such as Jim Smith is a donor. He donated $2,000 to us on March 31st, as well as his history. And during that system, they had some issues where something as simple as they were entering Miss or Mr. into the first name along with the first name, which could cause some duplicate errors if John Smith and Mr. John Smith are really the same person, but it's not being recognized as that. So once we did that, we poked into their data and found these issues. One that we found was for a zip code, they were entering the normal length as well as an extended one. And again, this was causing duplicate data entries. So you'd have the same address, but it's listed twice because of the zip code. We also noticed that some of the fields that they were entering into the system weren't being used accurately. For example, they weren't marking when somebody was deceased. So this poor family or this poor person was still receiving communications, even though they weren't with us anymore. So what we did was address these issues, as well as also provide with them an architecture that's going to help them get to the point where they want to go, which is that final report. So right now we're kind of in a bit of a standstill. They're going to call in a different company to do an audit, and hopefully they'll bring us back to actually do and generate these reports. We use SQL to do a lot of this analysis. We exported the data from their system and put it into a SQL server, where we then did a bit of a deeper dive. And I wish we had more time, because I know I really enjoyed actually poking around in there, and we could have found a lot more insights. So I'll pass it off to Mike to talk a little more about it. You're on mute, Mike. There you go.
Let me get off mute. Thanks, Lynn. So I do want to touch on something Lynn mentioned at the end of that client story of, we did months of work with this organization and got feedback that they loved working with us, et cetera, which, par for the course for CapTech, not to toot our own horn, but we pride ourselves on that relationship building. And then, in real tough test of that trusted advisor role, we had to kind of back off and say, we've done as much as we can. You need to bring in some specialists for a little bit to clean this data up, and then we can jump back on the roadmap that we help you build. So that's a really good example of being a trusted advisor in the consultancy space. It's not just a money grab of, yeah, we'll do this, but this is a big problem. It's going to take 6 more months, and that means more time, more money. So being that true trusted advisor here is a pretty interesting use case of sometimes we're not the right people for the job, and we need to be honest with our clients about that. So that's kind of an interesting angle in IT consulting that I don't think gets brought up enough in this setting. So pretty cool use case there and pretty interesting story. But yeah, once they get their data cleaned up, we're back in there. Great. This is a pretty cool one that I worked on a little while ago. So this is a ground logistics company, otherwise known as trucking, but don't call them truckers because they hate that term. So basically this company came to CapTech and said, we're using technology from the 1970s and we want to be the Amazon of ground logistics. That was our reaction too, just kind of what? So they said, we're ready to jump in. We want modern architecture, we want cloud, we want data science, we want all this stuff. And we're like, okay, that's great, but what's your biggest problem here? And they're like, oh, our contractors keep leaving, and contractors are the drivers. They keep leaving. Oh, okay. So let's work on keeping your contractors for a long time, and then we'll work, as we do that, we'll start proving out these high-tech concepts that will take you into a modern architecture and get you up to speed as far as technology is concerned. So keep drivers driving, that's the goal. So really what we did was actually, we did some quick napkin math for them, right? We perceived that it's about $110,000 annual revenue preserved per driver retained, right? Preserved keyword and retained keyword. Not net new, just here's some savings and here's how the technology is going to affect your business goal, right? That was one of their business goals, was to save money by retaining talent. So what we did was actually built a pretty sophisticated data science model, came out 85% model accuracy, produced a weekly report of at-risk drivers based on a number of factors on, the type of truck, when they drove, how often they drove, the length of their typical loads, all this metadata around what they were carrying, when they're carrying it, how they're carrying it, et cetera, and comparing it to their historical performance and patterns, and then comparing it to that of happy drivers and comparing it to that of those drivers who display certain patterns before they decide to leave the company. So again, the first cut of the model, and obviously speaking to some data scientists here, models are continuously refined. Our first cut was 85% accurate, which is pretty darn good for less than a year of work and a team of 4. So, and also keep in mind that a part of this project was setting up their Microsoft Azure environment for data science. So a large bit of that upfront work was data engineering and data architecture to bring their legacy data into a modern architecture that could facilitate this type of modeling. And then also putting it on a very consumable dashboard such that their HR department and, driver, for lack of a better term, their driver relationship staff could take the output of this model and take actionable steps of what's the next best action to try to keep this driver and complete that feedback loop. So what Lynn brought up before, right, how we deliver data at CapTech specifically, this is a very good example of kind of an end-to-end delivery. We started with a quick assessment of their business problem. What is the actual problem you're trying to solve? We understand you want to be the Amazon of ground logistics, but why, right? So what? Why? We got to the why. It's because they want to keep their drivers happy, want to keep drivers driving, and they're having a problem because too many drivers are leaving and they're losing revenue. And it costs a lot for them to onboard new drivers and costs a lot for them to try to keep new drivers. So yeah, we were like, okay, let's start there. And using this proof of concept or this very niche use case, we can take your first baby step into a modern architecture and prove out how you want to use this cool new cloud stuff and better, enhance your organization to be a modern ground logistics company. So that was kind of our strategy and business discussion setting. And then we realized, wow, you're using some really old technology and really old data. And it's not going to cut it. We can't just slap this into a spreadsheet and run some math for you. This is going to take some work. So a lot of the upfront lift was not data science. It was, data discovery, which is where we go through all their systems and see what they've got. It was data quality and assessment of, now that we know where your data is, let's test the quality and completeness of it. It was data movement, which involves engineering and architecture of how do we get your old data into your new data stores at a quality that is acceptable to you and to that of your data science process, and any transformations in there. And then finally, it got to the data science piece, right? Let's build the model. We've got our data, we've got our machine learning sources, we've got all this cool stuff, and we now have data flowing into our model, so let's use it. Then the output of the model was obviously visualized into a dashboard, and we did some user testing, and got to know how this company was relating to their data. That is a huge piece, and especially with this data science group, that's a challenge we face in advanced analytics and data science today. Is it's high statistics, it's high math, it's very when you're talking to business people, to marketers, to HR people, to the consumers of the data, they don't really care what's in the black box and what algorithms you use and the formulas behind it, and how this theorem was proved 500 years ago. They want to know what this number means and what they do next with it, right? So that visualization and that consumption piece is a very important piece of data science, and probably where we see our clients asking for help the most right now is, cool, we've got all this data, I think we're ready to do data science, but what do we do with it? It's like, oh, well, we can help, let's talk. So this was a pretty cool use case, and the stack we used down here was Azure. So Azure SQL, Azure Data Factory, into an Azure Data Lake Store, using Databricks for the modeling, and then Power BI is the front end. So kind of full Microsoft with the exception of Databricks there. And yeah, it was pretty cool to have, they gave us budget and they were just like, go nuts. Like we want all the bells and whistles. And we're like, really? Did we record that? Is that for real? Because usually it's not that easy. But they've been a great partner to work with, and they really are consuming and understanding the data science principles to the point that CapTech actually has helped them hire 2 data scientists of their own as full-time employees. So what did we do there? We helped them write the job recs. We helped them qualify candidates. It goes back to being that trusted advisor of, here's enough to get you started, and let's keep going down the roadmap. What else can we do? And in the meantime, we're going to help you succeed, right? Teach them how to fish. You know what I mean? So that was a really cool use case and something I'm pretty proud of. What's the next one? More Azure. Yeah, this one's pretty straightforward, right? So we went in and partnered with the client, and really we started our relationship with this global sports entertainment brand as they need a couple SQL engineers to build out, data pipelines. Just pretty standard couple engineers on the team. And it became very apparent with their use cases and production issues and, a lot of the pain they were feeling, that they were well overdue for a modern upgrade. So we actually, instead of the last case was a client coming to us saying, we know we're old, we need to be new. This is a client that said, nah, it works, it's fine. And then we had to, come have a pretty hard talk with them. Like, this is not fine. This is not how your team should be working on weekends. This is not normal. This is not standard. It doesn't have to be this way. So we had a pretty tough talk with them about, it's just not cutting it, right? You're from a business perspective, your architecture is holding you back from what you want to do. You're trying to be this, global brand. You were kind of a global brand right now, but you're not as big as you think you are. And we have reason to believe that your legacy data architecture is a large reason for that. And turns out we were right. Shocker. So what we did was actually came up with a number of use cases and metrics before we even started. How are we going to measure success of this cloud transition? And what are the specific pieces of functionality that we're going to move off the legacy system into the cloud? This was not a full transition into the cloud space. A lot of their stuff is still in a more legacy architecture, and it works and it's fine. And that's the right size solution for that piece of functionality. And a lot of the stuff is now real-time streaming data. It never gets written anywhere. It's the person takes action, and then that data is floating through the ether. It never gets written to a table, and analytics are done on it in real time and written to these tables at the end of these processes. And that takes, a pretty sophisticated Azure streaming service or collection of streaming services to accomplish. And so they went, night and day from very, very heavy on-prem physical data stores to streaming architecture rather quickly in under a year or two. And what that ended up in is 40% on monthly infrastructure expenditure, because they didn't need all these data centers across the country and satellites across the world connecting these data sources and et cetera, et cetera. So that was one where we, like I said, this relationship started with 2 or 3 SQL developers on a team of SQL developers, and had, evolved into a true trusted partner doing very large enterprise level, data strategy and architecture work for a global sports brand. So pretty cool how that consultancy mindset kicked in of, realizing our consultants on the ground are like, it has to be better than this. This is not great. And because they didn't have anyone come in and recognize any issue or pain, their organization was suffering from it. So, we put on our thought leadership hat and our consultancy hat and said, there's a better way to do this that saves you a ton of money. And they're like, what? No, how could that be? And it's like, yeah, let's talk. So, that's kind of how we build relationships. And again, that trusted advisor role, we're experts in technology. We can kind of help. We have a breadth of experience outside of global sports and entertainment that we can bring to the table, right? I think this solution, we actually implemented at a financial institution or two prior to this. So we know it works. We know how to get it off the ground. And, for us, it's just a walk in the park, right? Like, we've done this a million times before. We know this works. This is not a hypothetical proof of concept. Like, this is what we do. So that was pretty exciting to see this account and this relationship grow from very humble beginnings to, one of our larger data accounts now. Let's see, where are we at time check? 4:35. Wynn, do you want to jump into your stuff now, or do you want to do one more case study?
Either way, we've got, it won't take me too much time if you want to pick another case study and I can go to that.
How about we jump into your stuff and open it up to some questions.
Okay.
If you want to jump in another case study, we can.
Sounds good. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about recruiting at CapTech, because hopefully Lynn and Mike have gotten you so excited about CapTech that you're like, wow, I totally want to be an IT consultant now. So at CapTech, we consider ourselves a local firm with a national presence, meaning that, a lot of times consulting gets kind of a bad rap because people think, oh, I'm going to be traveling Monday through Friday. I'm going to be working 70 hours a week. I'm only home on the weekends. CapTech is not set up like that at all. We have 8 offices, and most of the projects that we do are in the cities where you live. So I'm based out of our Richmond office. Most of our Richmond consultants are on Richmond-based projects. Same with Lynn and Charlotte, Mike in DC. We do have some people that are open to travel, and that flexibility is great, but we don't require it, and it's definitely rare. And right now, non-existent because of COVID. We're all still mostly working virtually. Our model is typically to work on site with our local clients, but our clients are still working virtually as well. So we are able to continue kind of working remotely. And I think moving forward, we'll continue to have as much flexibility as we can. But if our clients want us to be on site with them, we certainly will. Their needs kind of always come first. But for the foreseeable future, it's probably going to be a bit of a hybrid model. So we have openings really in all of those offices when we recruit on college campuses. The main roles that we recruit for every fall are software engineering consultants and data analytics consultants. So just like you heard all about today, we're looking for people that really want to kind of perform in that trusted advisor role, as well as be technical and work on the projects very hands-on. So people that are interested in the data side come in as a kind of more general data analytics consultant. And then they can work on that T that Mike spoke of. Sorry, my dog has just decided to make an appearance. So, you can certainly go down the path of data visualization or data engineering or data management. if you come into CapTech as a data analytics consultant. These college positions are intended for brand new, fresh college graduates that don't have prior work experience. So if somebody went to graduate school straight after their undergraduate, they would be eligible to apply, or somebody that's graduating with their bachelor's degree would be eligible to apply. We recruit for these roles primarily in the fall for the next summer. So our positions, unfortunately, for this summer are filled, but we'll be, recruiting again, like September timeframe. We'll have openings for people graduating in December of 2021, as well as May of 2022. So those positions are primarily for that group. We do also have positions for experienced people. So say that you're a graduate student and you worked for a few years before you decided to get your graduate degree. Those positions are separate than our college recruiting positions. And those ones you can find on our website, and that's captechconsulting.com. And we recruit for those kind of real time. If we know, and those roles, you might come in as a data engineer or a data architect. You can come in at some of those higher levels or more specialized levels, with the idea being that you've got some experience already kind of on that analytics side. And those positions vary quite a bit. I didn't even put up a slide on it because they change kind of rapidly. Right now, we literally have over 100 positions open throughout the whole company. So we are in full-on hiring mode. Again, any of those locations that I mentioned. So for those of you in Charlotte who want to stay in Charlotte, by all means, check out captechconsulting.com and you can see those experienced hire openings. And then another role that we have is for interns. And those are for undergraduates who are going to be entering their junior year next semester. So it's only that 1 year of eligibility, but we recruit for similar roles, the software engineering consulting and the data analyst role. We also generally have a couple of business analyst roles. And the interns get a really great opportunity to do a simulated consulting project. So our interns for this summer actually just started on Monday. And for 10 weeks, they'll be doing a project that we give them that really simulates a real client engagement. We have 24 interns and they're split into 2 teams, and each team of 12 works together as a project team, just like Lynn and Mike would work together with their client. The interns are all working together, and we've had as many as 90 CapTechers supporting this program in one form or another, as mentors, as subject matter experts, as data architects that are helping students understand the data side of that particular project. So it's really a cool program, very immersive, a really great chance to see what it's like to work on a project team and have clients basically that you're reporting to and talking to and building relationships with, but in a very safe space. So that's a really interesting opportunity as well. And actually last summer, our internship program was ranked #1 of all consulting firms in the country, which was huge for us. Yes, so that was awesome. I had nothing to do with the actual program. I just recruited the awesome students who went through it, but that was really amazing. So I wanted to open it up for questions, but I also wanted to just quickly share our website so that you have it handy and our LinkedIn addresses. Feel free to connect with any of us after this for, personal questions or just to make a connection. I always tell students, anytime you listen to a presentation by a company, link in. I mean, you've just sort of met somebody, so now you can start building your network. So I'll stop sharing my screen, and if you all are comfortable turning on your video, we'd love to open it up for Q&A and kind of get to know you and see what we can answer for you.
I can take the first question from Maggie in chat of what do we mean by data strategy? Good question. In general at CapTech, data strategy is one of our services where we meet with our clients to discuss their business goals and provide a roadmap using specifically data-driven technologies on how to get from their current state to their future state. So how we, some things that we mentioned previously. Lynn worked with the food distribution nonprofit that, wanted to better, enhance their business processes with data using their current data. So we built them a roadmap on how to do that theoretically, and then got to work on actually doing it. Similarly with the trucking company, right? They had this big goal. So we said, hey, pump the brakes, let's work on a step-by-step plan and put some thought into, what it takes to go from A to Z here, and then built out a roadmap. So in general, data strategy is leveraging data and analytics technologies to produce a strategic roadmap, which companies then use as a guide for whatever their data transformation or business goals are with data-driven technologies.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah.
So I've always got a question. So I'm going to kick in if the other folks are being quiet out there. So when you're interviewing, what's the one kind of base skill for a data science type position that you kind of, that's your floor, that's got to be there? And what are the things that you've seen that have surprised you in a pleasant way, that folks coming into an interview process, a skill set maybe that wouldn't necessarily be seen as something to be required? We tend to focus very on technical skills when we talk about data science. What's that X factor that also kind of helps folks get over the hump?
So I can speak to that. I'm not the interviewer, but I know being able to speak well and being comfortable with your clients and being able to build that relationship. Because like you said, it's not just all about the tech skills. You can have that for days, but if you're not able to articulate your work, and if you're not able to convince the client that you know what you're doing and help them actually figure things out, then your work's not going to mean that much in the long run.
I'll echo that. If you're applying for a data science position or any technical position at CapTech, you'll be put through your paces technically, for sure. We have nationally renowned subject matter experts working at CapTech who in some cases have literally written the books on some topics. So no lack of knowledge behind here qualifying technical candidates. But for us, and Wynn can kind of speak to this too, we have core values that are listed on our website. So what's refreshing for me is seeing a candidate who's done some homework and has tried to interpret the core values from our website in terms of their technical expertise and how it might apply, and bringing their own perspective to the interview, such that it's more of a conversation and less me asking questions to try to probe and sometimes, I hate to use the term pulling teeth, but if you can't connect the people side of your technical expertise, especially in a consulting interview, we're a people business. The interview kind of sometimes drags, right? And it's less engaging for the interviewer and interviewee, to be honest. So that's always refreshing to see someone who can consider the people aspect of their technical expertise, and more subjectively to CapTech, have gone to our website, looked at our core values, and thought through, even at a very basic level, of what does this core value mean to me, and how do I interpret that in terms of the work I want to be doing at CapTech. So again, onto the people side. Obviously, like, knowing your stuff technically is a prerequisite. So but beyond that, yeah, that's what's refreshing.
But also, if you don't know your technical stuff, you probably wouldn't have made it to the interview anyway. So
good point. Yeah, and I think another thing too is, our kind of slogan is "Others talk, we listen," and I think being a good trusted advisor, we really show the client that we're listening to their needs and trying to come up with a solution. So I think there's a way that can be displayed during an interview, and it could be just as simple as making sure you understand the interview question. Sometimes people get kind of nervous, and especially if it's a technical interview and they think that the right answer is the one that they can come up with the fastest. Whereas it's actually like, we want to hear your thought process. We want you to validate that question and make sure you're understanding what we're asking and why we're asking it, and then come up with that solution, because that's exactly the same kind of tool that you'll use on site with a client. There's a question in here from Naomi. She's worked as a technical consultant primarily on Salesforce, transitioning into data science. Any specific career guidance, particularly for my transition, would be highly appreciated. Stay in Salesforce. I'm just kidding. I'm actively recruiting Salesforce.
As a data analytics leader, I have to disagree. Salesforce is hot right now, though, I have to say. I think there's room for both, honestly. That's actually a pretty exciting prospect to leverage your previous experience with Salesforce into the data science realm. So two of the pretty in demand and kind of boutique-y, high performing clients are buying Salesforce, high performing clients are asking for data science. So they kind of go hand in hand, and I think there's a future where they intersect a bit. So I would say stick with both. As far as the data science goes, I think what's important to remember coming out of college is you're not expected to be an expert in data science, and no one is expecting you to be the data scientist at their company. Well, as far as IT consultancies are going. So you can relax a little bit on the data science. And again, I think continuing to grow technically, right? Understanding the modeling, understanding some of the technologies and best practices of what platforms and how to implement data science, but also not losing sight of what's the human value of data science. Why am I modeling this? What is someone going to use the outcome of this model for? Being well-versed in that and being able to come up with ideas around that is huge. I think that's, pretty candidly here, we have data scientists who still struggle with that at CapTech. They're very into the academia, and when we get on projects, they want the model to be perfect, and it's all about the model and all about the math and all about, is this model running to perfection? And sometimes it runs over and they lose sight of why are you running this model? Like, how perfect does it have to be? I mean, we saw with the trucking model, 85%. For a homework assignment in data science master's program, 85% is probably not good enough. That's probably a start, right? But for this client specifically, as a proof of concept, 85% is a massive improvement over 0%, which is what they had before. So the why behind that, right? 85% accurate model for what they were trying to do, just prevent employee attrition and prevent regrettable attrition. That could save one job over 3 months. That could save 2 jobs. It ended up saving 3 jobs the first month it was implemented. So the whole project paid for itself within first month. So knowing the why, understanding the people, like the business, the people reason behind your model and the math behind it is, to me, equally as important in the consulting space as really knowing the math and getting your model perfect.
And I just wanted to echo something that Michael said too about you not being expected to be a data scientist. If you join CapTech, there's a lot of opportunities for training. I know the DNA practice holds a lot of casual learning sessions, whether it's being about somebody just presenting their client and the tools that they used, or diving deeper into a specific topic. We also do innovation challenges, which kind of brings in everybody, and you're given a topic and you get to try something out new and try different things and work with different people. So I would also just say, just be willing to learn. If data science is where you want to go, consider looking the topics that go right into it. I never thought that data architecture would be an interest of mine, or data strategy. And I've done a ton of data strategy work and I actually really enjoy it. And if I had just stuck with data analytics and data science and that's all I wanted to do, I wouldn't have found that passion.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
sometimes people like that want to be data scientists realize that consulting isn't quite the path they want, because they do want that model to be so perfect, or they want to prove, a certain case. And in that case, consulting might not be right, but if you're okay with, in your mind, like, oh no, I want to use this to help a client, I think it's just kind of that mindset and where your interests really lay.
They're not English majors. Yeah.
I always get that mixed up.
Me too. I can't correct you. Do we have another question in chat, or you already answered that one, didn't you?
So I can ask. I just want to ask Lynn, you are the SDA alumni. So I want to ask, what advice do you have for a student when applying for a job, and what kind of skills do you think were more important?
Yeah. So this is going to really hurt Josh to hear. So I hope this is different. I know when I was a student, one of the skills that we practice a lot on, and a lot, was SAS. I've never used SAS in the real world. There's a lot of other different platforms and tools to use. And that's just not one of them. I would focus on kind of a few different things. If I had to pick three in particular, I would say learn a data visualization tool, whether it be Tableau or Power BI, it doesn't matter. A lot of them are very similar. So, those transferable skills. And I think as a student too, you can get discounts or free access for a bit. So learn one of those. If you want to do the data analytics route, I'd recommend learning Python. There's a lot of great resources online to do that. And then the third would be a data management thing. So whether it be SQL or some other skill, or if you're interested in the data architecture, look a little more into that. But just kind of being a little well-rounded, and just, like I said, be willing to learn, especially if you're coming out of college or a master's degree. You're going to learn a lot in just your first month in CapTech, and just kind of drink from that fire hose.
Thank you.
I'll add to that. I think I'm partial to SQL. It's not going anywhere. I mean, it is SQL. We're working in data. It is SQL. It will always be there. So be familiar. At least know your joins. That's kind of kills me when I am interviewing, not college interviews so much, but experienced hires with 10+ years of SQL experience, and they get their joins wrong in an interview. Really grinds my gears, pet peeve. But beyond SQL, what I call the physics of the data, understanding how data moves and why it moves and behaves a certain way, regardless of platform or language. There are reasons things are architected a specific way. Why is a table, narrow and long versus short and wide? There's a reason behind that, and when to employ each is an important understanding. Understand it when it comes to building models, right? If your data source is structured a certain way, how does that impact your model? It means it might run slower because your data isn't set up to be ingested by the model, right? That impacts how quickly you can deliver a result. So it doesn't necessarily directly impact the math within your model, but it certainly impacts, how quickly you can deliver something, which is a lot. Like 9 out of the 10 questions we get as consultants is, how fast can you get this to me? So you need to know that. But again, going back to the physics of the data, having a holistic understanding of data, how it moves, why it moves, is conceptually very important. So definitely kind of learn that, whether it's through Python, SQL, a modeling class, whatever, right? But understand the physics of data, and anything, the other kind of adjacent to that, data quality. Know when you're working with bad data, learn how to recognize bad data, because you put bad stuff into a model, bad stuff's going to come out. So it's really important to understand all these adjacent concepts around data science that are required for success as a data scientist, and that kind of gets to your well-rounded point. And data quality, recognizing bad data quality and knowing how to mitigate that or address it is huge.
We have, looks like one last question that you might have about 60 seconds to cover. Mike or Lynn, do you want to touch this one? What kind of potential is there for growth? Maybe share your experience.
Yeah. Lynn, you want to start?
Sure. Is this like growth, like as a company, how we're growing? Because I know we just made the decision to start pushing eventually for a national recruitment versus just a local. So just sheer size wise, that's coming. I know the Charlotte office is constantly growing. We seem to just always be needing more space. Growth wise, there's a lot of opportunities. So when I joined CapTech, I was originally under the management consulting practice, which is that business system. So you tend to work in tandem with data, but it's a little more dealing with the business need. But I knew data is where I wanted to be. It's always been in my heart. So I was able to make that transition really flawlessly. So if you're somewhere where you may not want to be in the beginning, there's plenty of opportunities for you to figure out where you want to end up. I know one of my goals is to become that subject matter expert, and that's a path that CapTech has now that's focusing more on one tool versus, being in charge of a project or an account. So there's that too. And there's really a lot of different opportunities. Like I said, there's always a lot of training opportunities that you can tackle to really help figure it out. And CapTech's really good about letting you figure out what you want to do, and they'll support you. It's not like at Deloitte where if you don't make this in 2 years, like that's it, you're out, no more. It's very much you're going to grow at your pace, and they're here to support you for that.
And I'll quickly, I've been at CapTech for 7.5 years. I was hired as a consultant in the data analytics practice area. And as mentioned, I've grown into one of the national data analytics leads. I'm also on the management committee of the DC office. So outside of my technical responsibilities at the national practice area level, I've grown into a local office people leader as well. And through very different opportunities, right? My data analytics leadership potential was earned through, stretch roles on projects, leading teams, proving myself and growing. Winning new work, going down a business development path in terms of data work. And then, my DC office leadership was because I, started to plan our holiday parties. And I did that for 5 years, and it got me connected to a lot of different things. And they, it's not different than running a project, and you meet a lot of people and you build your network and you build your circle of trust, and then you start to kick off, you move from parties, to working on, charitable engagements. You work, like I said, charities, food banks, any sort of events, and getting into kind of that people development, coaching, however you fall into it, right? There's a lot of autonomy in how you get to grow at CapTech, and you can grow both technically and organizationally from a people perspective. So pretty much limitless, other than, only one person can be CEO at a time. So actually, that's not true. We got a co-CEO for like 2 years. So yeah, plenty of growth potential here. Yeah, and pretty rapid, right? Seven years from entry consultant to senior manager, national lead is I would consider that pretty accelerated as far as the consulting industry goes.
Well, I want to say thank you, Lynn, Michael, Wynn. Thank you so much. This has been fantastic. If you want to flash up your contact information one more time, we can close out with that. I want to thank all the students who participated in the conversation. We appreciate you being here, and hopefully you got some good information to follow up with. Thank you all. Be safe, and we appreciate it.
Thank you so much. This is great.
All right. Thanks.
Bye, all.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you.
Awesome. Wynn, thank you so much again. We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks
well,
to you and the team.
I'm glad you and Lynn could connect and get this all rolling. Thank you.
Well, and I mentioned to Lynn